Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our study of the Wisdom Psalms of David, and we're in Psalm 19. We're going to take 3 sessions to talk about Psalm 19. It's such an important psalm for us. We're going to introduce it today, and then we'll look at the 2 sections individually tomorrow, verses 1 through 6, and then verses 6 through 14. Actually, 6 through 13 is a section, and then we have a prayer at the end. But we'll look at the introduction of this psalm today. This song is there are a few places in the Bible where the arguments for the existence of God are given. Not that many, but a few. We've already read Psalm 8, and Psalm 8 does to an extent. Of course, Romans 1, does. It's not the primary point, but as he is making the argument that Gentiles are sinners, he says, they can just look around and tell that there is a God, and that he is good, and that he ought to be thanked. Psalm 8, of course, said, "When I consider the heavens, the work of your hands." What is a human being that you think about them, that you're mindful of them? That is one of the 2 arguments that are made about the existence of God in Psalm 19. The purpose of Psalm 19 is to assert God's existence and God's goodness. It's the one place, I think, in all of Scripture that we can open it and say, the point of this is to assert the truth. David said in Psalm 14, "The fool has said in his heart, there is no God." It's not the same thing as saying it in your head, really believing it intellectually, but believing it in your heart and thinking you're going to get away with stuff. Well, he's declaring straight up, there is a God. If you were to ever take a Christian apologetics class, you would be introduced to a variety, 5, 6, 7 different categories of argument for the existence of God. But the Bible only makes 2. The first argument is the teleological argument, the argument based upon design. And the second is the moral argument, the argument that we are moral beings and we have a moral compass, and that there are certain things that human beings just know to be right and wrong, whether they follow them or not. And we have a moral sense, in other words, which has to have a source, which they're really both the same argument. And the argument is this: why is there something instead of nothing? Why is there a universe instead of not a universe? Why do I have a moral sense instead of no moral sense at all? Why don't I just live by instinct? Why is that which is here? Why is it this way? Why is it thus? And so these are the 2 arguments that David is going to make in Psalm 19. In verses 1 through 6, the heavens declare the glory of God. That's classic teleological argument. You can't make it any better than David makes it. And then in verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect, and he's talking about God's law, God's moral sense that he has expressed and that we have inside us. And so Psalm 19 is the one place, the one classic place in Scripture where the existence and the goodness of God is asserted. And there are 2 arguments that are used. The first, and they're both arguments, they're both different sides of the same coin, different aspects of the same argument. And the argument is, we have something instead of nothing. The something that we have is a particular way. Why? How can there be something instead of nothing unless someone put it here? And how can it be ordered in this way unless someone ordered it that particular way? And those are questions that people who deny the existence of God really can't answer, and maybe they don't care to. But those are the 2 arguments that the Bible makes, Old and New Testament. The other ones, I'm not saying they're not useful, but I stick to the two I find in the Word. That's one of the reasons I really love C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. I have an old copy. I have it the 1958, but it was originally published in 1943 in London during the Blitz. It was originally a series of radio broadcasts about faith or not radio broadcasts, but a series. Yes, radio broadcast lectures, and so I just love this book because when he argues for the existence of God in a very calm, very rational, convincing way, makes these two arguments: the teleological argument, the moral argument, the two arguments that we have in Psalm 19. I'll try to stick to what the Word says and use the arguments the Bible uses, and I always appreciate it when someone else does the same. Well, we're going to take a couple of days to look at the text. We're going to look at verses 1 through 6 next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.